Okay, I really don't have an official intro for this video. In fact, the title already gets the point across as is. Coming out as a furry is stupid, or dumb, or whatever I come up with at 3 in the morning for a title, because that's when I plan my videos. So I kind of wanted to do this video to just get some points across, to inform people properly, to just sort of reiterate what I said in another video, the whole what is a furry video, explains a lot of the concept behind coming out as a furry, which I don't really like using that word. It very much undermines the actual concept of coming out, because I've noticed this a lot more in the audience that watches me. The people that might want to be more expressive of the furry hobby and their interest in the furry fandom with their friends, family, co-workers, schoolmates. But it's just this bottom line of, you have this interest that you have this hobby that is seen upon as not the best and is very hard to explain, and immediate conclusions can be brought up of the entire definition of the hobby itself. So I feel like a lot of people have adopted the idea of coming out as a furry, as more so explaining what the hobby is and expressing that this is a big part of my life. But the idea of coming out as a furry, this is more like the devil's advocate approach to it. I am not for using that word. Let me just reiterate. It's stupid, but sort of taking the devil's advocate role, because I can understand the perspective of someone who might see the fandom as an identity. Not more so a hobby, but as something that takes up a big portion of their life. Something that they can more so escape to, the idea of escapism and this and that. Go and watch the video. Why am I reiterating this? I always thought the idea of coming out as a furry was really just, it's sus as hell. Because, like, furry fandom, hobby, actually coming out, I can understand considering the fandom as an identity, but you just participate in the community, that's it. It's more so a hobby, it's more so an interest. You don't even need to tell anyone you're a furry. That is, of course, if you want to go to conventions and you're underage and you need a guardian or parent, it's complicated. But even just participating in it, even just being part of the community, even being a furry as is, you don't need to come out, you don't need to tell anyone. Let me simplify the idea of being a furry. When you're a furry, you're interested immediately in geek culture, whether it's online media, cartoon media, science fiction, regular fiction, role play, and then apply porn to half of that and you have the furry fandom. I kind of wish what I was saying was a joke, but being a furry simply means that you're a geek. When you're a geek, you found something that you really connect with that isn't really seen as, I guess, normal. You obviously can have science fiction, you can be interested in comic books, whatever. But at the end of the day, you're a geek. It means that you more so express a higher interest in fiction, in stuff that just isn't real, that is more so either storytelling or imagination. That's geek culture. And when you're a furry, you're a geek. Or when you're a geek, you're actually, no, that does not make any sense. You can be a geek and not be a furry. Take my dad, for example. He's a big fan of all the comic book characters in Marvel and DC and has all these collections. He loves going to Comic-Con, he loves going to these panels and events that take place, and he loves interacting with people who do profess the same love for comic book heroes. Did he come out to his family about being interested in this? What do you think? What do you think the answer is to that one? Probably the bigger issue that I see with not just the logistics behind using the term coming out as a furry, because it relatively undermines the whole concept of coming out as is. And in some sense, it kind of disrespects the whole idea of it. Even if you aren't, part of the LGBTQIA plus community and you might not mean harm, it kind of does bring a bit of disrespect to that whole concept, because there are actual issues with that, which I can understand, if your parents tie the whole furry thing to being gay or outwardly expressive, which conservative parents might not like at all. With that whole idea, I can kind of understand the severity of expressing your interests like that with friends or family. That, to me, I completely understand. But to the extent of coming out, when you phrase the idea of being a furry within the concept of coming out instead of just expressing it or just doing it, just being yourself, not giving a fuck, which is kind of hard, even for me, trust me. When you bring the term coming out into it, it brings the whole idea of being a furry into more of a severe thing that whoever you're talking to might need to worry about if they don't understand what it is. Even if you consider the furry fandom to be that big of a deal, not showing concern for it, treating it as a thing that just is. It's a part of you that you enjoy. It's a hobby that you love participating in. If you treat it like that, as more so just something that you found interesting and you start partaking in turn, people who view it upon you will see it as sort of the same thing. They might not agree with it entirely, but ultimately it's a hobby. It's harmless. But when you phrase it like this, of like, Mom, Dad, I'm a furry, and they have no clue what that is, that goes to worst case scenario. When you are going to sit down and talk with them, they immediately feel like they're getting the talk of their son or daughter or child is coming out to them. They're already preparing for it, and you tell them you're a furry. God bless your parents. God bless your parents. I can't even look at the camera the right way. Can I just say that? I hate that I have to even do a video on this, but I feel like it's needed. Not so much for, money, but more so just to properly inform those that might not know. And I've talked about in the past how if you treat the furry fandom just as a chill thing, in turn people will treat it as a chill thing. But if it's more so just something you slowly wean into your expressive self and into your life, then it's fine. Maybe, your friends or family or parents might ask about it, and you can just tell them, like, oh yeah, I found this furry thing. It's interesting. It's pretty cool. If you want to know more about it, here's some links to it. I can explain it here. It's just another side hobby that I do. That's it. That is literally it. Now, I would honestly argue that slowly adding it into your everyday sort of expressive life as part of who you are, whether changing to icons or wearing more furry merch or talking about, your interests with your parents, that doesn't happen nowadays. What am I talking about? Parents being interested in their kids' hobbies? What kind of parents do you have? I don't have those. Parents that are, god damn. There's no such thing as parents that take up an interest in hearing about what their kids have to say or what their kids are doing. What the fuck are you on? But seriously though, if you slowly add the furry concept or just the hobby into your life and treat it as a hobby, then I don't see really a big thing coming from it or a big issue with it. Maybe later on, if you want to go to a convention, God forbid those are happening in 2021, you might have to ask your parents, or you might have to, ask someone to take you or to go or to let them know that you're going and to explain that. But again, it's a hobby, and explaining it in the sense of you being a geek, which again is okay. It's not an insult. People might see it as an insult. I don't fucking where you play Yu-Gi-Oh at the lunch table with like the push-up glasses like that. Talked about Dark Magician Girl. I love it. I love how that's the negative, stereotypical idea of geeks, that they're seen as a bad thing. Really? You do realize geeks are taking all your jobs, right? Taking all the high-paying jobs because they're actually, like, intelligent. They have passions. They have really any, like, character outside of partying and drinking and sleeping. Wait a minute, I just described me. God damn, never mind. I think that's just something we need to start to embed into just the community itself. We don't need to announce to the world that we're furry. We get at the bottom line that it's a hobby. It might be a little bit more to some, but I think at the bottom line, if we just treat it as a hobby and we stop using the term coming out as a furry and we start just slowly integrating it into our life, there really shouldn't be a problem with just doing it. But just keep what I said in mind. It's not rocket science. I think that little bit of advice of just slowly weaning it into just how you express yourself and not really being afraid to just show more of it in your life, whether it's the furry merch or the profile picture or interacting more with furries online or maybe getting a fursuit and posting some pictures about it. I don't know. However you express your furry interest to others, just slowly adding it back into your normal life isn't a bad thing. Is it necessary? Not really. You don't have to tell anyone you're a furry. You might have to, depending on the situation you're in or the circumstance, if you're a minor. As far as I know, most parents have been chill about doing that, but you don't have to really tell anyone. That's just the bottom line. If it worries you that much that you might have to see it as coming out, then you really shouldn't tell these people to begin with. I think that's sort of a statement to be said. I may be right or wrong with what I say with that, but at the end of the day, just be chill about it. That's all I ask. Anyways, that about does it for me. Have a good day as always, and stay life jacket, guys. That's about it. Take care.